Welcome to Spurs Focus, your go-to spot for daily Tottenham news, transfers, and match updates. Don't forget to support the channel by hitting that subscribe button now. Let's dive into today's top story. Tottenham Hotspur have been put on red alert after it was claimed on Tuesday that Harry Kane is making plans to return to the Premier League. Kane moved to Bayern Munich in the summer of 2023, and after missing out on the Bundesliga in his first season in Bavaria, he managed to complete his dream in the 2024-25 season. Heading into the new campaign, the England captain is preparing for further glory in Germany and potentially more silverware to add to the collection ahead of the World Cup in the United States. While Kane is not planning on leaving Munich this summer, the Telegraph understands that 2026 could be a big year for the forward, who will be 33 by then. They claim that Kane could seek a return back to the Premier League after the World Cup, which will undoubtedly alert Spurs fans. After Kane left Tottenham, Chairman Daniel Levy insisted that there is a buyback clause in the deal that saw the talisman leave. How exactly that works is unclear, but one school of thought is that Spurs would have first refusal to sign the striker. There is also believed to be a release clause in play for Kane to activate in January. It is claimed that should he activate that clause this winter, Bayern would be legally obligated to sell the forward for £54 million. As for whether Tottenham would be interested in signing Kane again, the answer is most likely to be yes. The striker has scored 85 goals in 96 appearances for Bayern and is showing no signs of slowing down. A return to the Premier League, whether with Tottenham or not, could be on Kane's radar sooner rather than later. The forward is currently just 47 goals behind Alan Shearer's record for all-time goalscorer in the division. Realistically, Kane would need at least 2 full seasons in the Premier League to set that record, and thus a move would need to be completed next summer to ensure he could have enough games in him to beat Shearer's figure of 200. Tottenham held an open training session on Tuesday in front of 10,000 fans at the Kai Tak Stadium in Hong Kong, as they continue their preparations ahead of the first ever North London derby outside of the UK. Spurs and Arsenal will come up against each other on Thursday, and new head coach Thomas Frank continued to get his methods across to his players with their latest training session, this time in front of thousands of supporters at the stadium, where they will take on the Gunners. The Dane has a big squad to work with, although certain departments within it are low on numbers due to injuries, with players left back at Hotspur Way to recover or rehabilitate. Our Tottenham correspondent Alistair Gold is in Hong Kong, and he was at the Kai Tak Stadium, which had its roof covered, to watch the squad being put through their paces. Here are the things he spotted going on as the North London club worked ahead of their first summer tour game. If you missed it, Destiny Udogie, Kota Takai and Mana Solomon remained at Hotspur Way for treatment, alongside Radu Dragusin, Dejan Kulusevski and Brian Gill, who are continuing their rehabilitation. Mikey Moore, Alfie Devine and Dane Scarlett were all granted permission not to travel in order to explore potential opportunities for loan moves. In Hong Kong, Dominic Solanke, who had a minor ankle injury which meant he missed out on the weekend's action at Luton, was not involved in the session, only emerging towards the end in trainers in order to take part in the signing session for some of the fans present. Kevin Danso did some individual work during the session, having come off a loan on the hour mark on Saturday in the goalless draw at Luton. Rodrigo Bentancur, who was ill at the weekend, was back and involved. After their warm-ups, the squad went through some passing drills and rondos. They were then put through some 3-quarter pitch runs back and forth before the players took part in a 11 versus 11 half-pitch training game after that, with 2 sides that involved 4 quarters of football. There were little team talks beforehand as well, with 2 members of the previous 4-strong leadership group in each side. Christian Romero and Guglielmo Vicario were in one team with Son Heung-min and James Maddison in the other. That there was a penalty shootout that ended up bearing little relation to a normal shootout and seemed to turn into spot kick practice, but there was plenty to see from the session. The 2 sides had a good blend of experience and youth, and all eyes will be on whether one of them is the team that starts against Arsenal and the other starts against Newcastle in Seoul at the weekend, or whether Frank will blend them into his strongest team. The latter seems more likely when you see the spread of some of the names involved. The first team contained Vicario, Abbott, Van der Van, Romero, Spence, Bissouma, Sarr, Johnson, Bergvall, Odegaard and Richarlison. It's worth noting that Bergvall was in the more advanced number 10 role for periods rather than Sarr, who played there against Wickham. The other team featured Kinski, Porro, Vuskovic, Davies, Donley, Gray, Bentancur, Kudus, Maddison, Son and Tell. There was no Solanke or Danso, as mentioned above, while 16-year-old centre-back Junai Byfield stood behind one of the goals ready to come in, if needed, and helped get the ball quickly back into play. Yang Min Hyok and Will Lankshear were both at the other end of the pitch, going through shooting drills of their own, with Brandon Austin and Luca Gunter. Both teams wanted to win the game, and there were some flashes of skill and some strong tackles going in. The latter was on display when Jed Spence caught Pedro Porro late after the Spaniard had passed the ball and left his fellow fullback writhing on the floor in agony for a while. Porro got up and carried on, but did look to have the slightest of limps later as he was walking out of the stadium onto the team coach. The next person to have a training session scare was Mathis Tell. The Frenchman embarked on a few surging runs, and during one of those he picked up a sore-looking knock, seemingly to his knee. That injury drew real concern from the group, as everyone gathered around the 20-year-old in a circle as he lay on the floor, and it took some time before he got up, heavily limping. Thankfully, Tell appeared to run it off, and later seemed fine when leaving the ground. The game ended in a goalless stalemate, despite some promising attacking moves and efforts around the two goals, with some particularly close ones from Richarlison, and that meant it was time for a penalty shootout with Austin, coming over to alternate with Vicario in goal. The first three penalties from Maddison, Johnson and Porro were all saved by the keepers, before Romero stroked at a calm spot kick past Austin. Tell then also scored his penalty, before Richarlison beat Vicario. The two teams then came in for a chat with Frank and the coaches, before some of the players returned to a shootout with Austin in goal for all the penalties the first batch. Bissouma beat Austin twice and celebrated on each occasion, getting Austin riled up with the keeper booting the ball back near him at one point. The goalkeeper did save from Bentancur, was beaten by Sarr before Porro sent his spot kick against the right-hand post. 18-year-old Luka Vuskovic powered home his effort before Gunter had a go between the sticks, only to be beaten by both Spence and Bergvall. After the session, the Tottenham players walked around the pitch, waving to the fans with Son, the most popular man on display, on his home continent. The Spurs captain was behind the main group, so got his own walk around, applauding and waving to the 10,000 supporters before signing items for some of them. The future remains uncertain for the South Korean star at Tottenham, and Frank's earlier press conference did nothing to change that. Some local fans were left wondering whether they might be seeing one of the last occasions of Son in a Spurs shirt. Could Tottenham captain Son Heung-min be on his way out? The 33-year-old is attracting serious interest from MLS side LAFC, with a £15 million bid reportedly on the table. After a disappointing league campaign, despite lifting the Europa League Suns role under new manager Thomas Frank, is now under the spotlight. Frank insists Son remains a key part of his plans, but with new signings Mohamed Kudus and Mathis Tell added to the attack, competition is heating up fast. Will Son stay and fight, or is a move to America on the horizon? Here's the full story. The Spurs captain, 33, continues to be linked with a move away from the club he joined a decade ago. Interest in his services from overseas has remained throughout the summer, and with Son no longer a guaranteed starter, it has been speculated that all parties may decide that a move would be beneficial. If Son were to depart, he would do so as the first Tottenham captain to lift a European trophy at the club in 41 years following last season's Europa League triumph. But Frank, Spurs' new head coach, has now come out and said that Son has been earmarked to play an important role next season. I think first and foremost, Son's legacy here is remarkable, the Dane told Men in Blazers. He's been a fantastic player for Tottenham. He is a fantastic player for Tottenham. I see a player that can play a very good role here next season. He's come in, very good mindset, trained very hard, pushed the players. So I'm excited about it. It emerged last week that Tottenham were considering an offer worth £15 million from LAFC for Son, who won the Premier League Golden Boot Award back in 2022. He scored 7 times in the top flight last season and registered a further 9 assists for Spurs. It remains to be seen if he would be open to moving to the MLS. It was a disappointing domestic campaign for the North Londoners, who finished all the way down in 17th place. They did, however, atone for that by winning a trophy and qualifying for the Champions League. Now under new management, Tottenham have already bolstered their attack this summer, with the captures of Mohamed Kudus and Mathis Tel, the latter joining permanently after spending the second half of the 2024-25 campaign on loan at the club. Further additions are expected before the transfer window shuts on 1st September 2, which could nudge Son further down the pecking order. One player who won't be joining, though, is Morgan Gibbs-White. The Nottingham Forest star has signed a new 3-year contract with the club, following an approach from Spurs, who were thought to have triggered a release clause in the attacking midfielder's previous deal, only to be threatened with legal action. A move has since broken down.